Welcome to DDCEO today. Gary Rabine here with great guest, Greg Galant. I've got my producer, Chris, on board and my nephew, Joey. Any one of us can throw questions here at Greg and challenge him a little bit, talking about his entrepreneurial drive and where he's gone in his life. Greg is a fellow YPOer and a smart man living in Miami, Florida. It's a great place to be. So welcome, Greg, to be on our show today. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to be here for us.
Great to be here, Gary. Thanks for having me on.
So, Greg, we interview, rags to riches stories a lot. People that built something that serve a purpose and strive to be great at what they do. YPO is an indicator for me often that we've got somebody that's living that focus, right? Trying to be the best they can be what they do, building a great business, surrounded by, constant education, great core values and all these things. And I know that's kind of who you are, Greg. So we want to just talk about you, tell your story, and we want to learn something from you, all right? We're here to learn. We know you're a wise guy, and, not the wise guys we see in Chicago, okay, but just a wise individual, and we're here to learn from you, buddy. So you got, like I said, the three of us might throw stuff at you, and at the end, our goal is to, there's a book called The Laws of Success, an old book that I read years ago that I liked a lot. And it's just basically at the end, we just want to go over what we've heard as, different laws of success that Greg sees that's created the success he's had, and that will continue to deliver the success that you expect in the future. Are you in? Are y'all in?
Sounds great. Let's do this.
All right. Hey, Greg, thanks to be here. Yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know a little bit about your business. I read up on you and stuff, but I want to hear from you. Kind of, a little bit about your upbringing, a little how you got into this business and where it's gone, and customers you serve and how you strive to be great.
Sounds great. Well, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I started my first company when I was 14, building websites for businesses, and this was in the late 90s. So it was me going out to businesses and convincing them why they need a website, not why they should choose me, a teenager, to build it, but just like, why would you ever need a website? Why would you need an email? So that was kind of my first taste of trying to convince people to adopt new technologies. And then fast forward to when I graduated college in 2005. As I was finishing college, I had an opportunity to work at CNN.com. I went to college in Atlanta. And so I was working part-time at CNN.com, and I was pushing them to find a way to distribute the audio news they had on iPods, which were the hot new thing, Apple, the predecessor to the iPhone. I find out to describe it now. Yeah, I'm sure you and I know, Gary, when I talk to a teenager, like, what's an iPod? It's makes me feel really old. But so the iPod had just come out. I thought, hey, it'd be so cool. I kept getting stuck in Atlanta traffic. Like, why can't I download news content to the iPod? Start looking around, and I saw there was this new idea called RSS feeds with enclosures. Sounds very geeky, and the term hadn't come out yet, but that later got rebranded podcasts, because iPods, you're casting new MP3s onto the iPod. And back then you needed third-party software. It wasn't built into the Apple software yet, but I was kind of obsessed with this idea of podcasting way early on. So back in 2005, I thought, hey, I'll start a podcast just to see how it all works. This, when I was, I guess, 22 or 23 when I was graduating school. And I thought would be a topic. And my idea was to do, what's now a more familiar format, but at the time hadn't really been done before, and just interview entrepreneurs about how they got started. So
It sounds familiar.
A little bit. And, back then there was like so little people. Now I think entrepreneurs growing up are spoiled because they can listen to great podcasts like yours. And so many entrepreneurs are out there blogging, tweeting, doing their own podcasts. There's lots of knowledge you can get now. But back in 2005, it was just like you'd read Inc. magazine once a month, and that was about every industry. So if you're into tech, you might just be reading about someone who has a construction company, or you just read in your local newspaper like a 500-word story about area man, area woman starts company, and then it's just like they start the company and then there's like one paragraph in the middle and then they sold it for $100 million. Yeah, I was always just like, wait, what'd they do in between? Like, how do you get from like the idea to actually a working business? So I kind of took that idea where I just wanted to learn about podcasting. I was passionate about entrepreneurship. So I started this podcast called Venture Voice back in 2005. And I just started cold calling people.
Voice? You get Venture Voice?
Venture Voice, yeah. And it's still all up on iTunes. I later brought it back for kind of a encore season. But so this is back, if you go on iTunes, you can see it's 2005 to whatever. It's a unusual date. And I interviewed all these entrepreneurs who went on to greatness. And I wish I had money to invest back then, because I would have been like one of the top angel investors ever. I interviewed Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, back when LinkedIn had 50 employees. I'm pretty sure it was the first podcast he was ever on. The founder of Yelp. Then I got bigger names like Jack Bogle, the founder of the Vanguard Group back before he passed away, and lots of other great entrepreneurs. One of the people I had on my podcast was Ev Williams, who is working on a podcasting company himself. It's back in like 05, 06 called Odeo. And I kind of stayed in touch with him because we were both innovating around podcasting. Odeo didn't work out. So I watched him pivot from Odeo to a little side project called Twitter. And so that led me to sign up for Twitter way early. So I'm just @Gregory on Twitter. I didn't even call in a favor, like no one had registered Gregory yet. So I got my first name on Twitter.
Wow.
And then I logged in early on. And, back in 06, it really was people like tweeting what they had for lunch and all that. So I didn't get it at first. But then over time, I saw it developing. And what really took me aback about Twitter, and I should back up, I was early on Facebook because it rolled out when I was in college. And the school I went to happened to be one of the first 13 colleges they targeted before they opened it up to everybody. So I'd seen the other social platforms, but what made Twitter entirely unique when it came out was that it was the first kind of social media platform you could be good at, because Facebook was just still locked down to your friends. You'd never be like, oh, this person's good at Facebook, go friend them. It'd be like, wait, I'm just going to see my friends on Facebook. Instagram didn't exist yet. YouTube was just getting started and was more pirated content. So Twitter really struck me as like it's a content creator platform. That led me to think like, but there was no way to figure out like who's good at creating content by topic. So I had this idea along with my co-founder, Lee Semmel, that we could build a site where you could vote for who's the best on Twitter by category. And just say, I nominate, so-and-so for hashtag whatever Shorty Award. So you could vote with a tweet, and then we built a site that'd be like a real-time leaderboard. We didn't even promise that there'd be an award show. We just put up the website. We called it the Shorty Awards because tweets are short. And within 24 hours, the Shorty Awards became the top trending term on Twitter.
The Shorty Awards.
Yeah. They're still going today. It's still the largest award show. It's now all of social media. But it kind of took off by surprise. And we found, and I kind of had like an oh shit moment because I realized people are going to actually want to show up to this thing and have a real award show. So I dropped everything, announced it would take place 2 months after it went viral because I was worried that the Twitter fad might end before we do the show. Because this was back in the days of Friendster and everyone thinking that social networks were very ephemeral. And which, who knows, maybe they will turn out to be. But so we dropped everything, organized the first Shorty Awards in exactly 2 months. It was the most intense period of my life. We had to find a venue, sponsors. We flew in people from all around the world. We had MC Hammer that first year, Gary Vaynerchuk, Shaquille O'Neal, a lot of like the early people who were on social. And then at the Shorties, what really took me aback was how much press we got. So right after we went viral, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, BBC all covered the Shorty Awards. And I know from launching other things in past, and we have more time, I've launched things that haven't worked too, that I edited in the short intro, but I'd always try to get press for my own stuff, and I knew it was really hard. But with the Shorty Awards, it was this kind of almost jokey idea, but it got a ton of press. And I realized that like journalists were using social media to figure out what to write about and to distribute their work. So that led to launching the first version of Muck. That's Muckrack. We launched the first version back in 2009. It's a free website where you could just see all the journalists in one place. And then became very popular with journalists. We had over 10,000 requests to get listed on there. And then I started talking to PR people, and they were all telling me like, hey, we love using your website. We're using it to figure out who we should pitch on a story idea to get our clients in the news or get the companies we work for in the press. So we realized like, oh, that's interesting. Like you're using our site to do your job. We didn't build it with that use case in mind, and we also weren't charging, but we thought, hey, if we could build a bunch of tools for the PR people, we could give them more value and we could charge for it. And one of the lessons I learned from doing the shorties, it was always profitable, but it was always nerve-wracking because every year we had to start from zero and go sign sponsors up and all that. So we never knew if we'd make money, and we had to make all these big commitments on venues. Every year I'd sweat if we could, if we get stuck with all the expenses and no revenue.
Hey, where did you have the first events, and then and where do you have them nowadays, right?
Oh yeah, so the first one was in Dumbo, Brooklyn, where our first office was. This now trendy part of Brooklyn. It wasn't trendy when we were there. It stands for down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. And then we moved it into Manhattan. The most recent one before the pandemic was at the PlayStation Theater in Times Square. It was a 1,000-person event with celebrities, social media influencers, brands, and agencies were also getting honored. So it'd become a pretty large scale event. And then now we went virtual during the pandemic, and now we're bringing it back to being in person.
Okay, so you're virtual up until now. Now where are you going with it?
Now we'll be announcing it soon, but we're bringing it back in person. We're splitting up events between New York and LA.
Wow, cool. Okay, so Muckrack kind of evolved out of this, is that right? And because you realized you were doing a great service to PR and all that, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, exactly. So we decided to relaunch it as what's called a SaaS platform, software as a service. Basically, in anything you use online, Salesforce, QuickBooks online, that's all SaaS, where you pay a monthly or annual fee to access the software. So we had this idea we could keep it free for journalists, and we've actually since expanded it to podcasters and content creators, so it's free for them. But then charge to use this platform for companies, PR departments, and PR agencies that helps them do three things. The first is like find the right journalist or podcaster or newsletter writer, the right people to reach out to about a press opportunity to get attention. The second is to monitor their mentions in the media. So this would be less relevant for a really small business, but if you're a large company and you're getting lots of press worldwide, you have to know like what's being written about you or in print about you, or even mentioned about you on TV in real time, so you can react to it and stay on top of a news cycle. And the third piece is PR reporting. So again, if you're a company, and probably a little more relevant for larger companies, but you'd want to show, hey, if I'm Pepsi, how much press did I get? How does that compare to how much press Coca-Cola got? Or are there direct competitors? How much of the press was positive or negative? How many of the stories that were placed have our key messaging in it? How many of the stories that were placed did our PR team talk to before it was written? Everything you'd want to know to kind of know how you're doing in the media.
Cool. And how would a business use, Muck Rack now? Let's say a mid-sized business, $50 million company. Our $50, $100 million companies similar to what we see YPO maybe is an average, growing YPO company. Is there ways you could use Muck Rack for their growth in PR that you're finding is invaluable?
Yeah, definitely. So broadly, we're seeing kind of the challenges a lot of businesses are having is that paid media is getting harder. If you want to pay for advertising, the costs have gone up a lot on all these platforms due to Apple's privacy crackdown. You can't target your customers as well with paid media. And the economy, the money supply is a lot tighter now, so you can't get capital as easily to just plow into your marketing budget. So that's where the idea of earned media or public relations, it's a lot more efficient because you can tell your story for free, right? Like you invited me on this podcast, I have a chance to tell my story, and I'm not paying you anything, or at least I hope I don't get the Venmo request on me after this. But no, it's very, very generous of you to have me on, and that's why it's earned, right? You thought I was interesting enough to have on your podcast, and you want me on because hopefully I'll be valuable in some way to your audience. So if you're an entrepreneur out there, especially at that scale of business, it's going to be a lot more efficient to grow your business with PR or earned media opportunities than it is to pay for it. But if you really want to optimize that, you can wait for someone to come to you. But if you want to really take advantage of that, it's much better to be proactive. And what we let you do with our technology is to search and figure out which are the right people to reach out to based on everything they've written about, podcasted about, tweeted about in past. So you can go on and say, hey, I need to find, I'm looking at my folding bicycle that's in my office right now. So if I were the PR person for a folding bicycle company, I could say, show me the journalists that have written about folding bicycles before, show me the podcasters that put in their bio that they're into cycling. You could kind of work all these creative angles to figure out who are the right people to put on your media list. And then we have an entire workflow so you can build your list of people to reach out to. You can kind of customize emails off a template to each one. So it's personalized, but it's done in a very efficient manner because it's got the workflow built in. And then it's got relationship tracking, kind of similar to like a CRM if you were in sales.
Sure.
Except all for these earned media opportunities. So you can keep track of what stage you're at with everybody that you've reached out to. You can keep your notes if they say, hey, I'm not going to interview you now because you're not at the right revenue level yet. You could put that in a note. And then when you look back next year, you can be reminded, oh, I should reach back out to Gary because now I'm ready to come on his podcast. So it's kind of got everything you need for that. The only caveat I give is, it still takes time, just like sales, right? You could buy Salesforce, you still need salespeople. If you're going to use our software, someone needs to be willing to put in the time. So it could be that you hire a full-time PR person, you could hire a PR contractor, or you might just decide, hey, your marketing person should spend 25% of their time doing PR. And some CEOs even decide, it's a powerful enough thing for them to spend time on. You can see even you read the Steve Jobs biography, the one written by Walter Isaacson, Steve Jobs would call Walt Mossberg, the tech reporter for the Wall Street Journal at the time, every Sunday and speak to him for an hour when he came back to Apple about his plans because Steve Jobs realized PR is that important and he wanted to shape the narrative. You can see it now. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, he's always tweeting at Kara Swisher and all these other journalists because he realizes shaping the media narrative matters. And one of the secrets that I think a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs don't know, they feel I got to hire a PR person to talk to the journalists because the PR person's an expert at talking to the journalists. But actually, if you talk to most PR people, they'll tell you that journalists would rather hear from the entrepreneur or the CEO.
Sure.
They're always getting pitched by the PR people. They want to hear from people in power and they want to hear from the decision makers. So if you're an entrepreneur or CEO, it'd be a great idea to get a PR person to advise you But if you put some of your own time into it and do that outreach yourself, you'll get much better results.
Sure. Yeah, that and there's not much that gets lost in that conversation, right? I like that. Okay, so when you look at cost for a mid-sized company to use Muck, and let's say they have a PR person, marketing person, or somebody on their team, an assistant that spends 30, 40, 50% of the time, managing it, right? Using it Muck for the efficiency, that it is. What's the cost of that on a monthly basis, let's say?
Yeah, so all of our pricing's annual. We kind of quote it depending on the exact use case. We've always had, we found in our market, people really like to work with sales teams to get kind of the right quote. But, it's several thousand bucks. So it's a whole lot cheaper than, compared to someone's salary. It's a small fraction of what you'd be paying them. Not that it replaces the person, but that it makes, it can double or triple their efficiency. And it's, drop in the bucket compared to a paid media ad budget. So our customers find it very, very efficient spend.
Cool. Okay, so we're my Chris here that produces this podcast with me, my buddy Chris. We've been talking. I've got a bunch of goals in our businesses still, as any YPO does, right, to scale and grow things. And we're maybe $250 million of businesses today under the Rabine group of companies. And our biggest one is paving parking lots. So we pave a lot of parking lots all over America, from your area to Midwest to west to the east and all that. And so we are not. I'm now going on a acquisition 7-year plan based of acquisition. I'll acquire 20 to 30 companies, mom and pop companies that are kind of probably stop growing in their marketplace. We're gonna inject capital. We're gonna inject technology, artificial intelligence, 3D technology and paving, all the things that we know can take them from the mom and pop to a CEO running a $40 to $60 million company in their marketplace, in their local marketplace. So we picked we picked about 5 locations right now. We're going after Tampa being one of them, Nashville being another one, and so on. But either way, we're going to have 20 to 30 locations. We're going to partner, buy the majority of these small companies, and then we're going to grow them, kind of like what we were years ago. We want to grow them in what we are today in major markets like Dallas and Chicago and Mid-Atlantic to the larger commercial paving companies in the marketplace. But I'm actually talking about doing this. It's basically the road to $1 billion brand, and our paving businesses are probably 200 million valuation, 150 or 200 million valuation currently on the paving companies that we own. So I want to build $1 billion brand. That would be the first one in the country like it, first one in the world probably like it, because it's really kind of a mom and pop focused industry. So Greg, we want to do this. Excuse me. We want to do this, and we want to probably do this we want to build a story that's this real story that's going to happen, and we want to get these different characters, right? People from our team that'll help me do the evaluations to those companies we're buying, and the mom and pops we're buying, the leader that we recognize as the potential leader for the future in the business, the marketplace they have compared to the marketplace we think we can capture, and all these things basically on building this road to $1 billion brand. So it sounds like we could use what you have, right? Use what you have to help in the PR in every market we're going to do this in, or even across the country.
Yeah, so your goal is to kind of capture the attention of these people who might be interested in selling their paving businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, there's a little bit. Mom and pops are, let's say, $5 to $15 million revenues companies in their marketplace that we know we could grow. For every confident we can grow them to $30 to $60 million in their marketplace within 5 or 6 years, and then we want them to stay on board as leaders, as partners. And that's kind of the goal, right? So it'll be a lot about technology, advances in technology that enable to do things faster, higher quality, using things that we would have never imagined 10 years ago, right? So,
yeah, what I heard in there is that you're touching on a lot of things that kind of are trending in the news right now, and we see in our surveys, like, one of the things that make pitches most successful is like if you can attach it to a trend journalists are already interested in versus like kind of operating in a vacuum. So you mentioned AI. I think, that's obviously top of mind for everybody right now. And I think, it's not something people would typically associate with AI, paving parking lots. So I think that can capture people's interests, and journalists are curious people. So you throw that out there. Let's say, tell me more. How does AI affect parking lots, and gives you a better shot at earned media?
Sure. Well, if we went to Muck Rack, it definitely could be a big help to that PR nationally. Is what we're thinking, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I think.
All right. Well,
a lot of potential there for like how you tell the AI story, and then there's always people like kind of the underdog story. How are you empowering a mom and pop to have a good financial event and to go up against the bigger conglomerates?
Yeah, and the story, my story is that also, right? We started with nothing, a couple $1,000, and even 20 years ago was only a $6 million company or something like that, right? And we've grown to be the biggest or second biggest in the country at what we do, and it's a lot of fun. But it's basically just striving to be world class in our marketplace and bringing, over the last 20 years, bringing more technology to the industry and more world class engineering to our industry than anybody else. And so again, we're confident that those same tools that got us from where we were back even 20 years ago to today, right, can be used in every aspect of our growth, growing market by market, really giving unfair competitive advantage to every business that we target in any marketplace. So that's what we want to do. So I'm coming after. We're gonna look for you and figure out how we can use your PR tools to help do this as Chris and I build kind of like a reality show almost, right, on how to roll up to $1 billion valuation, right? Because I think any business can do it. What I'm going to be doing, as long as you have differentiators that really you can really sell as a world class product or service. I believe you can do it. We're going to be doing it, right? So,
yeah, it sounds like an awesome journey, and I think, like you said, there's still very little. I mean, I've always found as the business has gotten bigger, there's actually a lot less resources out there, because there are lots of people write blog posts about how do you set up your corporation, or how do you make your first sale, or how do you hire your first employee. But there's very little data out there about like how do you scale from 1 million to 10 million, from 10 million to 50 million. How do you hire executives? Because generally the people who, once people get to that level, they're not writing blog posts about it or tweeting it. So I think it's a awesome thing if you can spread that knowledge, because a lot of people are very hungry for it.
Yeah. So that'll be fun stuff to talk about. So yeah, I think as you're saying, there's probably a bunch of different little points of differentiation that mentioned to get attention in PR. There's years ago, probably 15 years ago, we started investing in 3D technology to do concrete paving at big parking lots. Today, that technology dominates the ability to pave super efficient, super high quality, and when we do big concrete parking lots, right? That's still fairly new news, actually. There's just not a lot of people in the world that do it the way we do, right? But it's not as big as AI, which we've been investing in for the last 7 years in a big way. And AI has changed our industry and changed our opportunities for the future, right? So the AI conversation, if I have it anywhere in front of any type of industry or customer or not otherwise, right? That's always something that sparks their interest. Okay, let's talk. Let me hear more. Right? So like you're saying, that's probably the buzzword that gets you in front of the most people today, right? But there'll be something tomorrow that'll be again the next thing that people are thinking about that maybe can be used in our industry, which becomes another talking point, right? So,
yeah, well said. I think you're thinking about the right way, because like I find the biggest downfall that a lot of entrepreneurs and CEOs and other leaders have when it comes to PR is that they get like too myopic or kind of internally focused. So they're just thinking like, how great is my business? Look, my employees are happy and our revenue's growing and we have this beautiful office. And then they want to go tell a journalist, look, I have this great business. I want you to write about it. And they're not putting themselves in the shoes of the journalist, where it's like, well, what's the news? Why should anyone care? Like the journalists are, they have a job to do, inform the public. It's not to help the people they write about. So it's that like flipping, like you're saying, of like how you think about PR, where it's like not what do I like about my business, but what would the public find interesting about my business? What's surprising about it? How does it play into a big trend? Is there an underdog story to it? Is there something you can bring into your story that's going to make it interesting to a wider group of people and make it news?
Yeah. So the fun thing is, so my story is about, I was laughed at when I wasn't going to college. My buddies, called me a ditch digger back a year after Caddyshack came out, right? That was, world needs ditch
One of my
diggers,
favorite
right?
movies, by the way.
So Greg, my goal is actually to do the same thing that I was blessed to be part of, taking something, from very small in this great country of America and building a nice competitive company, really going from a ditch digger to a CEO and having to act and be and perform like a great CEO. And that's what I've been really excited about in the past 15 years, is really mentoring other CEOs to lead my businesses. And what I'm really excited to do with this whole brand, this ditch digger road to $1 billion brand, is really creating CEOs, right? Kind of like we do at YPO, mentor each other, share experiences with each other to take somebody that's a mom and pop, or, called a ditch digger, to a CEO in their marketplace, and allow them to hopefully dominate their marketplace by being a great CEO and building a great business, right?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to pay it forward, and always nice. I find similar. I don't have only 2 businesses, not nearly as many as you, but even watching leaders within our business grow and run their departments and bring a lot of expertise to it, and it makes it.
So tell us about that. Tell us about now you building your business and doing what you've done to grow from nothing to where you're at, right? What's been the challenges, and then tell us how you go about really looking for leaders and mentoring leaders, and what do you look for in great people and values and core values, let's say, and then how you look at really what is a leader, right? When you think about your business and how you're going to continue to grow. It can't be on Greg's back, right? It's got to be on the strength of your leaders and your culture, right? Tell us a little about that stuff.
Sure, yeah. So the way is we bootstrapped it all the way until last August, when we raised our first outside financing. So we had to be kind of real lean and scrappy in the beginning. Early on, it was just a couple of us, and figuring out how to do things really efficiently. And the thing that always struck me, and I think that's kind of like misleading about job titles, is how it changes over time. So, when you start a company, you give yourself the title CEO, but in reality, you're answering customer support emails and taking out the trash from the office.
You're really a ditch digger.
Yeah, ditch digger is the perfect way to sum it up. So you have this glorified title, but you're doing everything, particularly if you bootstrap your business, as I did, or as it sounds like you did. And then I found, like, every couple of years, we've always grown anywhere from like 50 to 75% year over year in terms of our top line revenue. So that means, at least every 2 years, we're more than doubling with compound growth. So I found, in a way, like, the job totally, even though the job title stayed the same the whole way, the job description completely changed every couple of years. Because first it's like, how do I do everything myself? Then it's, okay, how do I manage 5 people? How do I manage 10 people? Then, like, the second you got managing down, now it's, okay, how do I hire managers who are capable of managing others? And then the challenge shifts again to, like, how do I hire executives who are actually going to know more about their business function than I do? CFO who knows more about finance than me, or a head of product who knows more about product development than me. And then still, then shift my leadership style so that I'm informing them, on the vision for where I want the company to go, but I'm no longer kind of teaching them how to do the day-to-day elements of their job. So it's, I'd say, that's been kind of the biggest challenge, is just like evolving as a leader and evolving to do the job well. Kind of, I would always joke like the faster we grow, the more incompetent I am, because the second I'm good at something, we grow, and then the thing I was good at is irrelevant and delegated down in the org, and then the thing I need to do is something I've never done before, so I have to go figure that out.
You have to actually embrace hiring people smarter than yourself, don't you? As you continue to grow. I mean, in many different aspects of what you do, right? I mean, you feel you're pretty good at something as you built it initially, and you did a pretty good job, and you're successful, right? You thought you're pretty good at stuff, but then as you get a little bigger, you bring people in there. Gosh, you're way better than you at so many different things. And I think real leaders really understand that they need to continue to find people smarter than themselves in every aspect of what they're not good at, as well as what they're good at.
Yeah, well said. It's kind of a humbling thing to know, like, no matter what individual skill you have, like, there's someone out there better than you at it. And even if you were pretty good at it, you're not going to have the time to focus on it and stay current on the latest trends. So you're going to atrophy at it. And then the other thing I see too is just there's this big element in business where, like, if you set up the perfect system in any scale for your business and you double or triple, it's probably going to break in a really bad way, even though it's the perfect system when you set it up. And there's nothing you could have done about it, because you set up a system for a company 3 times the size, it wouldn't have been practical. So it's real that's going to happen, and having the right
systems and people too, right, Greg? I mean, I have so many people that I've been so blessed to be on my team, to have in my team to help me lead and help me do great things. But I didn't really think about it at the time. But a lot of the people I'd have probably were not going to be capable to be in a number 2, 3, 4 position in my business as I continue to grow it. But I kind of assumed that they would be, right. That we're going to get 10 times the size we are, and you, Joe Fragoli, are going to be my right hand guy all the way. You'll be my president, CEO, right? I mean, those conversations might even happen, right? And anyway, when you get to be more mature as a leader, you don't ever count it. You count on people progressing and getting great at what they do, better, but doesn't mean they're going to be, they're going to be leading your team, because chances are, if they don't continue to progress at a high level, there's going to be other opportunities to bring people in that have been there and done it before, taking your business to a different level. So it's like nowadays, I'm not very honest. I say, hey, well, I want you on my team forever. If you love this industry, love my customers, and love the team, I want you forever. Not sure your own aptitude and your own passion for the industry will determine where that's at in our team in the future. But man, I want you on my team. So a lot of our teammates may never grow in their position a lot. They may grow responsibility and all that, but and hopefully they're still very happy being there. In other cases, you look at people that you didn't expect to really grow much in your business at all, and they're they're running companies for you, right? So you just don't know where the future takes you, depending on what the aptitude and the passion is of those people you bring in, right?
Well said, yeah. And it's and that's also where, like, it becomes a different job, right? Because you're head of X function at a 5 or 10 person company. That just means you're good at doing that. And then that company scales to a few hundred people. Being head of X department means managing managers and strategic plans and stuff that has nothing to do with the skill set you brought to the table as an individual contributor. And yet we feel like, oh, people should like you said, I think entrepreneurs being optimists, we think like, oh, yeah, of course that person can go all the way. And I think it's good to be optimistic about them, but also to be realistic and know, like, I hope they can, but there's a very good chance it's not right for them. And, maybe they don't even want to, right? Like, there's some, there are people who are great Michelin star chefs, so they wouldn't want to be the head of food services for Burger King. It's like they want to run a kitchen themselves. So I think it's also people's egos get in the way sometimes. And it's like, it might just be that they're a great player on a startup team and they should go find the next startup, not necessarily that, like, they got to scale on that function forever at the same company. Or, maybe have the humility to know, like, okay, I want to stay on the boat, but there needs to be a vice president or a C-level person brought in on top of me who I can learn from and who's going to help guide the ship in my department.
And again, a great CEO probably realizes when he's at the end that his or her skis too, right? So I'm not the CEO of my companies anymore, and I kind of liked it. I like being the CEO of my company and overseeing my companies. Today, my son is actually the CEO overseeing all of our companies. He's a YPO also. But we have CEOs and presidents and general managers that run each company. And really, I wouldn't be capable of running any of these companies probably nowadays. I think I'd probably do a decent job, okay? But I don't think I'd be as good as most of them, right? And so now my role is to be a coach and to be the chairman of our board and be a coach. And man, that's a lot of fun, actually. I love doing that more than anything. So I'm in a perfect position that I don't have to be the day-to-day CEO anymore. And again, my son is way better than I was, in my opinion. He's 35 years old. I've got other CEOs same way in these businesses that are unbelievable. I mean, I can't tell you I can match their energy or their productivity or their leadership in their business. So that's a beautiful place to be. But we all need to understand we all have a set of skis that we're built for, unless we really are passionate about extending those skis to be able to be even more valuable in that position. We probably need to replace ourselves eventually if we really care about our customers being served better and our teammates being served better in a growing environment. We may not. We need to kind of figure out where our skis at too, right?
Well said, and I guess we all kind of wear, all those of us that are CEOs of businesses we started. It's like we wear two hats. There's the hat of the CEO and the hat of the owner, and it's hard to have that performance review with yourself, right? It's like you get paid once the business is at scale. You make a lot more as the owner who owns mostly equity than you do as the CEO who gets whatever salary you pay yourself.
Do you have a board of
ego out?
You have a board of advisors, Greg, or no?
Yeah, well, I'd always had like an informal board of advisors. I never had like a formal one, but I have a lot of advisors I would go to, entrepreneurs who'd been further down the path than me, and professional CEOs too. Of course, YPO and my YPO forum. And then now we actually have a formal board of directors since we raised our first funding last August.
So I have a great board, and our team has a great board of advisors, and we trust them, and we listen to them, right? If you don't listen to them, if they're very valuable, they're great leaders, you don't listen to them, you're not going to keep very long, right? So we listen to them, we respect them, and they're amazing leaders that have done amazing things in their lives. But they're the ones that tell me, hey, Rabine, you kind of suck at that, right? I mean, you're not very good at that. You need to find something better. I'm like, wait, man, I thought it was pretty good, right? But either way, I think that's important to have people you trust that can tell you the good news as well, the bad news as well as the good news, right? And I'm confident my board advisors would tell me if I want to jump back on my businesses, they say, you stay the hell away from that. So either way, it's great to have people that you trust around you that tell you the bad news as well as the good news, right? And that's what hopefully your board of directors will do for you, as well as mine does. So it's fun. And I think you can do that. I think you can do that at any level too, right, Greg? I think if my friends that run a $5 or $10 million company, I would always today now, and I did this myself, right? But I'd always advise them, go out and find three friends that are great leaders that love you enough that would sit on a board and just meet with on a 2-3 times a year basis, and then buy them lunch, buy them dinner, lay out, be transparent with them, and tell them where they think your blind spots are, right? I think if any person would be very well served to do that. And I was kind of afraid to do it, or didn't think it had a lot of value back when I was a smaller business. But man, I wish I would have done it when I was a $2 million business, let alone, I probably was $100 million in revenue before I actually did that, So I think it's something I'd always recommend. It doesn't cost you anything if there are people that really care about you, maybe a dinner, lunch, dinner, or whatever, right? But I think it's important.
Well said. Yeah, I found, I feel like there's kind of a fellowship almost among, even if you're not in a group like YPO, or I was in EO before that, which is a similar group for smaller companies. But even outside of that, I always found you could really ask any other entrepreneur, and I think we all feel like this need that people helped us to get there, and we can never really pay it back to the people who helped us, except we can pay it forward to the next entrepreneurs And I always found back when I was going for advice when we were small, like I couldn't even buy them lunch because they'd always grab the bill before I could. So now I would get free advice and a free lunch most of the time.
Yeah, invite your wealthiest friends out to get some mentorship from them, and might pick up the tab. I like that.
That's how you bootstrap.
That's right. That's right. So tell me, kind of core values that you live by. Do you guys have written values, core values, or value statement, mission statements, all that kind of stuff? Tell us about a little of that if you do.
Yeah, we do. One of our big ones is ownership. So really giving people a lot of autonomy, kind of letting them, all of our employees like own a KPI, kind of giving them control over their day. We kind of pioneered remote work where we'd been doing remote work for well before the pandemic. Ever since the start of the company, really, half the team, we used to have an office, but half the team was elsewhere other than our headquarters, which used to be in New York City. And then even the people who were in New York near our office, we never required them to come in. So on the average day, maybe only half the people would show up, and it was up to each person. They didn't need approval from their manager. Some people would come in once a month. Some people would come in every day. It gets kind of embarrassing sometimes if a customer came by because like the office would be half empty. They'd be like, "Greg, are you doing okay? Did you just lay off half the people?" I'm like, "No, we're doing great. We're going fast. These people are working hard. They're working from home." But we were able to make that work early on because we knew we had this kind of core value of ownership, and that everybody, like, we'd never want to hire the kind of person where we had to be like, "Hey, I thought you were going to get in at 9. You came in at 9:05. Or, the kind of person where it's like, "Hey, I see you're distracted on your computer. I need you to work harder." We always want to hire the kind of people who are really driven themselves, or we want to hire the kind of people where we have to tell them like, "Hey, stop working. You should maintain balance in your life." But people who are really passionate about the mission of the company. So that really served us well, because then when the pandemic hit, we already had this team that was used to working remotely.
That's awesome.
We had KPIs set up for everybody. We'd long been using the OKR system of objective key results. It was pioneered by Andy Grove to kind of set the pace for every quarter and making sure that we're getting what we need done. We had Zoom and Slack before the pandemic. So when it hit, it was just like, I just sent out a note on Sunday. I'm like, "Hey, nobody come to the office tomorrow." That was pretty much it in terms of like changing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we ran our business. We had all hands on deck pretty much in our industry. It's kind of common, right? Construction services and all that. But we have plenty of people that we found out can work from home. And through all that, we did do more work at home and all that. And today, a lot more people definitely work virtually than ever before. We have a lot of our businesses where some big chunk of our people have to show up to work. They're construction services or whatever, and then we have some of our business where half of our teammates can work from home, and for sure I also own some office space, an office building, and some office space, all the buildings and stuff, and that market has gotten their butts kicked. Right, my office building in my own office is 1/3 occupied from what it was. Right, so of course our 100,000 square foot building I own is about the same. So I'm losing tenants. It's a tougher industry, but it is what it is. That's just the way business, continues on. And it's going to be, like you're saying, much more virtual world than it ever was before. So hey, we really got a few more minutes left. I want, and maybe we got to get you on another fact block, because we just squeezed enough juice out of you just to get us excited about your future and where you're going. Joey and Chris, I'm in on different things you're picking up. You got a question, one or two questions. We got a little bit of time still.
Hi, Greg. It was amazing hearing your story in the background. I just wanted to ask, who were your important mentors as going up in your businesses?
Thanks. That's a great question. So yeah, I had too many to recite. But I'll just shout out some of them. One was Fred Seibert, who is, we'd raised a very small angel round where we had like 5 people each put in collectively under a couple $100K. And he was one of them. He was the former president of Hanna-Barbera, one of the founding execs at MTV, been in entertainment a long time, and just had like a great perspective on where media was going, how to build companies and deal with folks. He was also the first investor in Tumblr, so kind of got a great view into the early social media world. Another one's Marta Hortel. She was one of our early investors. She was a digital executive at Hachette, the magazine company, brought a lot of their magazines online, was the first female partner at Mercer Consulting, and also just had a great take on how to kind of keep scaling the business and staying motivated. But there's probably, at least a couple dozen people, and depending on the stage of the company it was at, I would lean on other people. But I found it was just such a valuable way for me to like get out of the minutia of the business, because I was so focused on operating. I'd often get like really fixated on these small things, some cost going up, some feature I wanted to build, and then talking to mentors and getting pulled out of that. It was always, thinking again about like, hey, what are the really big things I could do to grow the business and change the trajectory, which was often something totally different than what you get fixated on when you're just kind of grinding away at operating a company.
Okay. Thank you
so Chris, I want you to end with this stuff you picked up. Any a bunch of ideas and things that I picked up when it comes to amazing loss and success that Greg has come upon here. Again, how cool is it? This ditch digger that was knocking on doors at 14 years old, selling websites to businesses in the 90s, right? To this venture voice, and then he went the Shorty Awards, to Muck and now a SaaS product, which is invaluable to his industry. What an amazing story. Tell us what you picked up here, Chris.
Yeah, Greg, you seem to have the Midas touch, my friend. You're finger on the pulse, so thank you so much for sharing your time with us. So I'm just going to read a couple quick highlights of things I picked up. Gary likes me to find the kind of secrets of success. So you said earned media is a lot more efficient and effective than paid media. Shaping the media narrative matters. Journalists want to hear from entrepreneurs and not just from your PR person. I love this. The faster you grow, the more competent you become. Because just when you started getting good at it, you're learning a whole new set of skills. I'm actually going to incorporate this into my own business. Find 2 to 3 great friends to show your business plans here for feedback and to help point out your blind spots. Don't be the micromanager. Just hire people who are self-driven. Thanks so much, Greg. Where can folks find out more about you and all the cool stuff you're working on?
Yeah, well, on social media, it's easy. On Twitter and Instagram, I'm just @Gregory. They can look me up on LinkedIn with my name there too. Unfortunately, I didn't get a call using.
That's amazing. I feel like that's I didn't even know that I wanted that, but now I want the @Chris.
Go after it. And then you can find our company Muckrack, MUCKRACK.com. And I should plug too, even if you don't have any, if you're listening, you don't have any money yet to buy our software, we have a free course on how to do media relations, basically the part of PR that involves reaching out to journalists. If you just Google Muckrack Academy or go muckrack.com/academy, you can take this free 2-hour course, get certified, or you can have your marketing person or someone on your team take this course, and that will teach them everything they need to know about how do you reach out to journalists and podcasters and other folks who can give you free publicity.
Love it. I love it. Greg, you're awesome, man. I really appreciate you being on. I want to grab your cell phone. If you could, maybe we'll go back and forth, get a cell phone from me. I want to follow up with you too. Being a YPO in Miami on there, fairly often, as well as I want to dig into this and see how we can partner and use your products for our story as we go forward. So thanks for everything.
Hey, I'll buy you a cafecito when you get here.
You'll buy. All right, just like your mentors. I'm going to take you out, pick your brain. You're going to buy me. You're going to buy me lunch. Awesome. Wait, what's a casito?
Oh, a cafecito. It's like the Cuban
cafecito.
espresso.
All right.
Yeah, with a little bit of milk, condensed milk in it.
That sounds awesome. Greg, thank you for being on DDCEO today. I really appreciate your time, man. What a great story, and God bless you going forward. You're going to continue to do great things, and thanks for allowing us to have your time today. And let's follow up between you and I. So until next time, thanks everybody for listening in. Scary Rabine, DDCEO, my buddies Chris and Joey, and we're out. See ya.